All right, welcome back to our next lesson. We're at lesson number 3 on unit 3, which we are now looking at the variations of our conditional statement. So here we are. We're going to move into our lesson, sharing our screen here. Okay. So we are on page 52. Right. So the variations of the conditional statement. So our conditional statement, right in our previous lesson, when we left off, we made some equivalences using our DeMorgan's laws and made some observations with our truth tables. So with our variations of our conditional, we also wanted to make a little note, some observations going on, and something that we have to really pay attention to that's also going to be on our memory sheet. We have to know that lots of things are going to be going on with this conditional statement. But one thing we do need to remember or note, make sure I have my pen been running. I do. We want to note that the conditional statement is always equivalent to its contrapositive statement. Okay, so we're going to be looking at that today, but that's going to really save you a lot. If you remember that, it's going to save you in a couple of problems on your homework as well as your tests. So note that. Contrapositive. Okay. Asterisk that. Very important to note. Okay. The conditional statement is equivalent to its contrapositive. All right, so now let's talk about the variations of the conditional statement. I'm going to take us to our memory sheet. So here we are on the second page of our memory sheet. Starts off with our variations of our conditional. Here we have a names column, and you have your symbolic forms of it. Your names column, right. We're talking about the conditional statement starts us off. Right? Then you have your converse, your inverse, and the contrapositive. The conditional statement, you know, it's just our regular P implies Q. When we look at our converse, converse simply means that we're going to flip it over. So here we're just going to flip our conditional statement. So whereas P implies Q is our original conditional statement, we're now going to have Q implies P. Just going to flip it around. The inverse means we're going to inverse it, right? Take the inverse of it. What does that mean? Well, some people will say that you change it, or you can negate it. Whatever makes you understand what's going to happen, we're simply going to keep the same structure. Your P is going to stay the same, in the same place. The Q is going to stay the same place. What you're going to do is you're going to negate each statement. That's it. Okay? So you're going to say flip. Some people will say change here. And some people might say negate. Again, this is just whatever word you feel comfortable. Okay. So keep your same P and the Q in the same spot. We're just going to negate it. So negation P implies negation Q. Your contrapositive is everything. You're going to flip and change. All right? So you're going to take your converse statement and you're going to negate that. It's already flipped. You're just going to take the negation of it. Now, if you take and pay attention, your inverse statement, it's already negation P implies negation Q. If you take and you flip that over, that's your contrapositive right there, right? So your contrapositive is nothing but the flipping of your inverse statement, okay? So that's all we're going to do. So your contrapositive, you're going to do all. You're going to flip and negate, okay? Flip and negate. So here we have negation Q implies negation P. Once you get this down and you remember the structure, always remember that you have converse, inverse, contrapositive. CIC, okay? CIC. Converse, inverse, contrapositive. Then you know you're going to flip, negate, flip, and negate. Some people say flip, change, flip, and change. Okay? All right, so that's what we're going to do right now. Here we are going back to the lesson. So now that we've gone over what we're doing, let's put it into play. So they want us to take this statement. If the dog is green, then the pig is purple. Here we see, if the dog is green, this is our P statement. Then the pig is purple is Q. So our conditional statement they gave us is here, P implies Q. Okay. They want us to take and write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of this statement. Now remember, we just said the converse means that we're going to flip, right? Simply going to just flip around. So sometimes it's going to help that you write the letters out first so you can see what the words are going to be, or the order of the words. So we're going to do Q implies P. Okay. Oh, that's ugly, isn't it? I think it's ugly. So Q implies P is what we're doing. So that means that we're going to still have an if then now. So we know we're going to have if what? The pig is purple. Then what? The dog is green. And there's our converse. Still going to be an if-then statement, okay? Because we know still going to be if-then. We just brought our Q statement first, then our P. Now the inverse, remember, the P is going to stay where it is, the Q is going to stay where it is, but we're just going to negate it. So we're going to take and write negation P implies negation Q. All right, so now we have negation P. So if the dog is not green, then the pig is not purple. And there's our inverse. Okay. Now we need the contrapositive. Now remember what we said, the contrapositive really is nothing but the inverse flipped over. Okay. So it's flip and change. And since we already changed the inverse, we just got to flip it over now. So we have negation Q implies negation P. So now we have if the pig is not purple, then the dog is not green. So there's our contrapositive. So getting used to looking at the symbols. Think about what they are and what we're doing with this conditional statement. It makes it easier for us to transition our words. Again, it may be very helpful for us to write the symbols first before we actually write the words. All right, let's pause here, the tape, and you try the next one, and then come back. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and we're rolling with it now. So it says, if the carrot is not frozen, then the rabbit is hairy. So if the carrot is not frozen, all right? So now remember, you can make the first one your P, and then your second one your Q. Here you see that if the carrot is not frozen, you can make that your negation P as well. It is fine. I'm in the habit of making whatever my first statement is my P. It doesn't have to necessarily be a not P. It is going to still come out to be equivalent answer to whatever you're doing. So whether it's validity, whether you're doing your truth table, whatever you're doing, it's still going to come out to be the correct answer. Okay, so here, let's stick with our consistency of making it just our conditional statement. We're going to let this, the carrot is not frozen. We're going to let that be our P. And then the rabbit is hairy be our Q. Okay? So we have our P and our Q. All right. So now the converse. You know, we're going to flip. All right? So flip, we know we got Q implies P. It helps to write it every single time. It helps solidify it in your mind. All right? Okay, go ahead. I know when you wrote it, you wrote if. The rabbit is hairy. Then, okay, same thing, right? The carrot is not frozen. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right. frozen. Now inverse, we know we're going to keep the same structure, just negate. So negation P implies negation Q, and you got if the carrot is frozen, all right, then the rabbit is not hairy. Okay. So everybody see what we're doing. Got to get it in your mind. Okay, got to get it in your spirit. This last one, contrapositive, flip and change. So we have negation Q implies negation P. Okay, so flipping it, we have if the rabbit is not hairy, then the carrot is frozen. And there we have it. All right. All right, let's go to this next one. Now watch it now. Watch the wording. Okay, always pay attention to what they're giving you. All right, pause the tape, try it, and then come back. All right. Now watch that wording now. It says, if all snakes are green, then some hawks fly. Now we have to recognize, I know you did, that we have all are and then some, okay? So we know that these are our quantitative statements, right? So we can't just insert a not here when we're taking the negation. So remember, negating our quantified statements. We got to make sure we remember those. So here we are with the converse. We just got to flip it around. So we don't negate anything here, we're just flipping. So if some hawks fly, then all snakes are green. Okay. All right, now the inverse. The inverse, we're going to keep the same structure, just negate. So now here we are, we're negating our sentence now. So we're remembering that if all are negates to some are not. So if some snakes are not green, then some hawks fly negates to no hawks fly. Did everybody get that? Right? So some, it's like saying some are, but they don't have to put the R because it wouldn't read correctly here. You can't say some hawks are fly. No. So some hawks fly, since it starts with some, and we know it negates to none or no. So then no hawks fly. Okay. Now, the contrapositive. We're going to take this and flip it. If no hawks fly, then some snakes are not green. Okay. So watch it when they sneak in those quantified statements. Make sure you're paying attention to your wording, right? So you're negating them correctly. All right. Looks good. Let's go to our next one. We're looking at our DeMorgan's laws now. Now, in our previous page, I'm going to go right back. In the previous page up here at the top, we looked here at our last truth table that we did. We made some equivalences here. All right, so we looked at this column here where the negation of P and Q was equivalent to negation P or negation Q. And then we saw where negation of P or Q is equivalent to negation P and negation Q. So these are our DeMorgan's laws here. Again, here we go. I'm going back to our need to know sheet. We'll fill that in. Here on our bottom of our second page, here we fill them in. Negation of P or Q is equivalent to, remember, start distributing negation in there, a negative sign, and you have to touch it. So negation P, the or becomes an and then negation Q. Same here, negation of P and Q, everything is touched by that negation. Negation P, and becomes or, and then negation Q. All right, so that's what we're doing. So here we are, going back to page 53. It wants us to use the DeMorgan's laws to state the negation for each of the following. So it says the cat is red and the dog is purple. All right, so we're looking at the cat is red and the dog is purple. And when we're looking at DeMorgan's laws, all we have to do is make sure we know that when we are negating the and statement, we have to negate the first statement, change the and to or, and then negate the second statement. Okay? So we are here. The cat is red. So we know the cat is red negates to the cat is not red. Right? Then your and becomes or. Then we have the dog is purple, and we're going to negate that. We said the dog is not purple. So what did we do? We negated it, right? Change our and to or, and negated our second statement. Simple enough, right? All right, let's go ahead and roll with these. Okay, go ahead and pause the tape and do B and C. Watch the wording here on C now. All right, and then come back when you're finished. All right. Taking the negation of our statements using the DeMorgan's laws says the apple is not rotten or the flower is pink. So negating the apple is not rotten, we have the apple is rotten. Our or becomes and then it says the flower is pink. So negating that, we have the flower is not pink. Right? We got that? All right, and our last one, look, we have all snakes are black and some hawks are green. So here they are throwing in all are and some are. So negating all are, we know it negates to some are not. So some snakes, not shakes. I don't got the shakes. I heard about it. Right? Some snakes are not black. Then our and, we know, comes or. Then some are negates to no hawks are. Okay. Or no hawks are green. So make a side note for yourself. Something to help you remember. Add it to your flashcard sheet. All right. It may be already on there, but rewrite it in your own words so that you can remember that and negates to or, and or negates to and. And remember that you have to negate the first statement and the second statement. All right. So we looked at the variations of the conditional, and we looked at the DeMorgan's laws. I hope this helps, and then we will come back for our next tape looking at our negation of the conditional and our equivalent to the conditional. All right, see you on the next lesson.